You know how everything's a subscription now? Music, movies, even socks. I swear if it...
To continue this ad, please upgrade to Premium Plus Platinum.
What? No, anyway, Blue Apron...
This is a pay-per-listen ad. Please confirm your billing.
Oh, that's annoying. At least with the new Blue Apron, there's no subscription needed. Get delicious meals delivered without the weekly plan.
Wait, no subscription?
Keep the flavor. Ditch the subscription. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Youth mental health is a complex challenge that requires comprehensive solutions. We must strengthen after-school programs. We must make digital literacy tools available in our schools. We must work with mental health professionals to support children. And we must empower mentors, educators, and parents to keep kids happy. Learn more about our commitment to finding lasting solutions at empowerourfuturecoalition.com/solutions. Paid for by the Coalition to Empower Our Future.
It's Saturday the 7th of February. I'm Ciara Evans, and this was a week that saw the Epstein files spark a crisis for Keir Starmer, Ukraine peace talks end in stalemate, Spain moved to ban social media for teens, and Kendrick Lamar and Bad Bunny clean up at the Grammys.
Grab a cup of something hot, put up your feet, and get up to speed on the 7 biggest stories of the week. This is the Standout 7 from the Smart 7.
It's news,
but not the news.
The biggest story this week has been the release of 3 million new documents from the Epstein files, which the US Justice Department released last Friday, and also announced that their review was now complete. The new files contained more details on correspondence between Lord Peter Mandelson and the convicted sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. And on Saturday night, Mandelson resigned his membership of the Labour Party to avoid causing it further embarrassment. The tidal wave of evidence has swamped journalists who are combing through documents and photos to find details of the billionaire sex trafficker's relationships with the rich and famous. There are plenty of mentions of US President Donald Trump, but Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who used to be Trump's defence attorney, says there's nothing to be worried about.
I don't appreciate it being directed towards Donald J. Trump, because that pushes a narrative that is completely false. There are all kinds of people that are mentioned in the quote Epstein files that we had to look at and run down.
Yeah. Once again, Prince Andrew's name and image have cropped up with fresh accusations from a second woman who says she was sex trafficked to the UK. Royal biographer Tom Bower was outraged by suggestions from Prime Minister Keir Starmer that Andrew should testify.
We all know that those congressional hearings are there to flatter the egos of the American politicians, and there's nothing they like more than to devour Andrew, who would be an easy victim.
If Peter Mandelson thought a resignation from the Labour Party would solve the crisis, he was wrong. Hence Monday saw Prime Minister Keir Starmer call for the peer to be stripped of his title. Lord Mandelson spoke to the Times on Monday describing the Epstein affair as being like dog muck and said that the smell won't go away. He also denied any accusation of improper conduct when he was a minister. Tory Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride says it's gotten to the stage where we need to know what exactly went on.
We now need a full independent inquiry into all the facts around what has happened here and the broader issues around the information that's coming out in this giant haystack of data that people are now going through around the Epstein affair.
The Met Police have now launched a criminal investigation into allegations of misconduct in public office, and Dame Emily Thornberry was relieved that the police are now involved.
This is so deliberate and so treacherous. I'm of the view that the whole House of Lords thing's a little bit of a sideshow, and that the behaviour is so bad that it's something that the police should be investigating.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said that Mandelson has let his country down, but Lib Dem leader Sir Ed Davies says that the PM has questions to answer about how Mandelson was vetted for the job of US ambassador.
We don't know what he knew, but those people in Whitehall who are supposed to brief the Prime Minister on such an important appointment, what did they know? What did they put in front of the Prime Minister?
After a non-stop blitz of coverage of the latest release of the Epstein files, the focus switched on Wednesday away from the former Prince Andrew and the former Lord Mandelson and on to current Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Labour backbenchers have been outraged by the revelations about the former business secretary and the more recent appointment of Mandelson as the UK's ambassador to the United States. The pressure from Labour MP saw the government concede that they will release the briefing papers that were prepared for Number 10 before Mandelson was given the role. But that release may have to wait until a police investigation is completed. The PM was pulling no punches at the dispatch box.
Mandelson betrayed our country, our parliament and my party. He lied repeatedly to my team before and during his tenure as ambassador.
Tory leader Kemi Badenoch was keen to ramp up the pressure on the Prime Minister as she brought the receipts about the appointment process.
On the 10th of September, when we knew this, I asked him at that dispatch box, he gave Mandelson his full confidence at that dispatch box, not once, but twice. He only sacked him after pressure from us.
As pressure grew, the PM made a frank apology to victims on Thursday.
I am sorry. Sorry for what was done to you. Sorry for having believed Mandelson's lies and appointed him.
He said that no one knew the depth and darkness of the relationship between Epstein and Mandelson, but pressure from within Labour and from the opposition is growing over the scandal. Tory leader Kemi Badenoch says that Labour MPs should call a vote of no confidence in Starmer.
Something is going horribly wrong, and we can see a government that is distracted. Right now, my belief is that there won't be a general election until 2029, but they at least have the opportunity to do better.
Last weekend was supposed to see the second round of peace talks between Russia, the US and Ukraine. However, the talks were delayed while a Russian delegation held a surprise meeting with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner in Florida on Saturday. The week saw Russia continue attacks on Ukraine with a drone attack on a bus, killing at least 12, while 2 more people were killed and a hospital was attacked on Saturday. Ukrainian President Zelensky says the US and Europe still don't seem to understand the threat that Russia poses.
In 2013, no one thought that our neighbours would occupy the territory and start killing. So, is Europe ready for this? And what will they do? I ask my colleagues this question from time to time, and they don't know the answer.
Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov described the talks as very complex and refused to comment on a meeting between Russia and the US in Florida over the weekend. There was at least some good news for Ukraine, as Elon Musk appears to have cracked down on Russia using his Starlink system to target drone attacks. Polish Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski says that the West needs to stay focused on one man.
Putin still believes he can win. Any misunderstanding within the transatlantic family, any distraction from our real security priorities encourages him to explore our weaknesses and fosters Kremlin's criminal endeavours.
NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte was in Kyiv on Tuesday and he witnessed the aftermath of Russia's latest attack, which prompted a call for NATO allies to dig deep to provide more air defences for Ukraine as the population struggles with no power or heat in minus 20 degrees. He says the NATO alliance remains squarely behind Ukraine.
Putin has long thought he could wait us out, that Ukraine was weak, that your supporters would grow weary, that our will would falter. He was gravely mistaken.
The tripartite talks finally got underway in Abu Dhabi on Wednesday as Russia, Ukraine and the US continue the process of trying to find an agreement to end the war, which has been going on for almost 4 years. Russia has continued to batter Ukraine with missiles and drones, leaving hundreds and thousands without power and heat in the bitter cold. Ukrainian President Zelensky described the first day of the talks as productive, and former US envoy to Ukraine, General Keith Kellogg, said that the pressure is on Russia and that Ukraine will not be the first to blink.
If they can get through the winter, if they can get through the next, say, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, then I think the advantage starts to accrue to the Ukrainians, not to the Russians. This is a last resort. Russia is not strong.
Meanwhile, Russian President Putin has been busy touching base with Chinese Premier Xi Jinping on a video call. He was keen to emphasise the importance of the Russia-China trade relationship, perhaps after both Canada and the UK have been eyeing up deals with the Chinese.
We are prepared to continue the closest possible coordination on global and regional issues, both bilaterally and in all multilateral forms, wherever the Russian-Chinese tandem plays a key role in many ways.
It turned out there was no breakthrough in Abu Dhabi, where the US, Ukraine and Russia had gathered for a second round of peace talks. The session broke up on Thursday with no immediate progress, and Donald Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, described the talks as detailed and productive in a social media post, but also said significant work remains. There was one positive note, which was a prisoner exchange that saw 157 Ukrainians, which included 7 civilians, exchanged for 157 Russian soldiers. Ukrainian President Zelensky said he'd hoped for faster results from the talks, and he also had a warning for Russia.
Even if someone recognises our territories as Russian, it won't do any good. Ukraine has a president, and nobody is signing documents on behalf of Ukraine. Therefore, our territories are ours.
Former MI6 chief Richard Moore says as we approach the 4th anniversary of the war that it's time to realise that the war hasn't gone to plan for Putin.
In many cases, we thought that the Ukrainians would struggle to hold back the Russians. We had underestimated just how bad the Russian army would prove to be in the battlefield. And of course, in Zelensky, you had a different type of leader.
Aside from the Mandelson drama that dominated the headlines, the government didn't have a great week. Prime Minister Keir Starmer was back in the Commons on Monday, presumably still slightly jet-lagged from his trip to China, which included a weekend stop-off in Japan. If he was expecting a warm reception for his new trade deals and the prospect of visa-free travel for Brits to China, he didn't get it. Instead, Tory MP Alicia Kearns wanted to know why the PM felt it was appropriate to make a state visit to a country which has just recently been accused of spying on Parliament.
I have never said we should not engage with Beijing. I have said we should not give them a propaganda visit. And it is extraordinary to abdicate the responsibility of the Chinese Communist Party, whose actions we had to respond to.
Starmer was unimpressed by the feedback and continued to defend his belief that the UK needs more international trading partners as the Donald Trump era makes existing partnerships less stable.
Refusing to engage would be a dereliction of duty, leaving British interests on the sideline. And incredibly, some in this House still advocate that approach. But, Mr. Speaker, leaders do not hide. Instead, we engage.
There was bad news for Health Secretary Wes Streeting on Tuesday as he faces the prospect of further strike action from resident doctors. The last strike before Christmas led to some sharp words from Streeting and no pay offer for the doctors. But there's been no sign of any settlement since. Now, the British Medical Association has polled its members to get a further mandate for action, and 93% of those who voted want to pick up the placards once again. There have been 14 resident doctor strikes since the spring of 2023, but Dr. Jack Fletcher, who is chair of the Resident Doctors Committee of the BMA, says the government's latest offer is ridiculous.
By any metric of inflation, that 2.5% is a real terms pay cut. Now, resident doctors have borne the brunt of significant real terms pay cuts to the tune of about 20%. What we're asking for is not that pay rise in one go. We're asking for a sustainable pay rise.
The 2-child benefit cap has been back in the headlines this week as MPs voted for a government proposal to finally scrap the unpopular measure. The Tories have pledged to restore the cap if elected, but this week has seen Reform do at least one U-turn of their own. Despite officially supporting the scrapping of the cap, Nigel Farage now says that it's too costly unless it only applies to working British families. However, the message doesn't seem to have gotten through to 2 new Reform MPs, Suella Braverman and Robert Jenrick, who it appears accidentally voted to scrap the cap by going through the wrong voting lobby. Reform Chief Whip Lee Anderson was busy trying to explain how Reform's budget math will work to Radio 4's Today Show.
We can go on all day about the numbers. I'm not interested in the numbers that the BBC have sourced. You're hardly a bastion of truth at the BBC when it comes to things like this.
The Bank of England left interest rates unchanged on Thursday, keeping the rate at 3.75% as they expressed concern about the rise in inflation in December and rising unemployment figures. The government and the Bank of England have been consistent in their expectation that once we get past April, the inflation figures should drop back to closer to the 2% target. In the meantime, mortgage holders and business loans will continue paying for the economy's lack of growth, but Governor Andrew Bailey was doing his best to stay positive.
My main message today is one of good news. Disinflation is on track and looks to be ahead of the schedule that we expected in November. Recent developments provide more confidence that inflation is on track to return to the target soon. But we need to ensure that inflation falls all the way back to the 2% target and stays there.
Monday saw the so-called Sky Cops inquiry resume in London, where former undercover police officers are due to give evidence over the next number of weeks. The original inquiry into the behaviour of undercover police officers was commissioned by Theresa May in 2014 and has been through a number of modules. Undercover officers began relationships with women without disclosing their true identities, and in some cases even fathered children while undercover. It's also been reported that the officers, who largely infiltrated left-wing protest groups, sent detailed reports of their surveillance to MI5. Alison Smith is a victim and a campaigner, and she says their behaviour should have consequences.
We want the officers who've been awarded honours to forfeit those honours. One of them's got one that we know has an MBE, and they have to be held to account, and that's what that looks like.
On the topic of justice, a new report from the Independent Review of the Criminal Courts has warned that the British justice system is under incredible pressure and at risk of collapse. Sir Brian Leveson just published part 2 of his review, and in this report he recommends that remote hearings be introduced to speed up the process of justice. The proposal would see trials continue in person, but that evidence from police officers or experts could be delivered remotely. Leveson has previously suggested scrapping jury trials for minor offences to accelerate the justice process. He's also calling for a new post reporting directly to the PM of Criminal Justice Advisor, and he says the situation needs urgent action.
The backlog is now nearly 80,000 cases, double that which it was in, I think, 2016, and that's a denial of justice for victims, for witnesses, and indeed for defendants.
Still to come in the Standout 7, in association with Metro, Spain steps up on social media and Chaperone grabs headlines at the Grammys.
Right after this.
ClickUp just solved AI's biggest problem, and it's saving 4 million teams from productivity loss every day. Unlike ChatGPT and other AI tools, ClickUp converges all your work into one platform, so your AI super agents have full context to prioritize tasks, execute workflows, and draft documents instantly. Teams using ClickUp finish work 30% faster and cut meetings in half. Try ClickUp for free today and get 15% off AI upgrades at clickup.com/podcast. That's CLICKUP.com/podcast.
Youth mental health is a complex challenge that requires comprehensive solutions. We must strengthen after-school programs. We must make digital literacy tools available in our schools. We must work with mental health professionals to support children. And we must empower mentors, educators, and parents to keep kids happy. Learn more about our commitment to finding lasting solutions at empowerourfuturecoalition.com/solutions. Paid for by the Coalition to Empower Our Future.
Welcome back.
While the UK has begun a 3-month assessment of the dangers of social media, other European countries have moved to take direct action, with Spain and Greece the latest to propose bans for younger teens. It comes after Australia implemented a social media ban in December, which has seen almost 5 million accounts disabled or blocked across a wide range of platforms. We'll have more on this story in this week's Sunday 7, including Will Guyot's take on Elon Musk's reaction. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez spoke to the World Government Summit in Dubai on Tuesday, and he says that 5 European countries have formed what he calls a coalition of the digitally willing. The group will work together to coordinate cross-border controls. He also says tech CEOs should be held criminally liable for not removing hateful or harmful content.
Today, our children are exposed to a space they were never meant to navigate alone. A space of addiction, abuse, pornography, manipulation, violence. We will no longer accept that.
The 68th annual Grammy Awards took place in Los Angeles on Sunday night. Kendrick Lamar won 5 categories, making him the most awarded rapper in Grammy's history and breaking Jay-Z's previous record. Bad Bunny, who's performing at the Super Bowl next week, took home 3 awards, including Album of the Year. And he took the opportunity when accepting his Album of the Year award to speak out on ICE and the current US political climate.
We're not savage, we're not animals, we're not aliens, we are humans, and we are Americans.
There were a number of special awards presented, including Cher, Paul Simon and Fela Kuti. There was also a tribute to Birmingham legend and Prince of Darkness Ozzy Osbourne, which featured Post Malone and Slash. UK artist Olivia Dean took home her first Grammy for Best New Artist.
I never really imagined that I would be up here, let alone nominated, so thank you so much. I guess I want to say I'm up here as a granddaughter of an immigrant. I wouldn't be here. I'm a product of bravery, and I think those people deserve to be celebrated.
Cameron's dramatic red carpet look grabbed plenty of headlines as she wore an intriguing dress that didn't leave a whole lot to the imagination. She was happy to give the credit to her stylist.
She's like more than a stylist, like really is involved with hair, makeup, of course clothes, but also just like entire ecosystems around my fashion. So I would not have the fashion that I do without her.
The death was announced last weekend to comedian and actress Catherine O'Hara. She was just 71 years old. She became an icon after her appearance as Macaulay Culkin's mother in the Home Alone series, but had an extensive career in comedy and as an actress, including roles in classic movies like Beetlejuice. She had multiple awards, including 2 Emmys, a Golden Globe and 2 SAG Awards, and her performance in Schitt's Creek sparked a million memes. There were tributes from many stars of Hollywood, including Pedro Pascal, Michael Keaton and her former movie son, Macaulay, while Steve Martin and Martin Short took time out of their Saturday night performance in Texas to pay tribute. Rest in peace, Catherine.
Catherine O'Hara, I met when she was 18 years of age, and in all these years later, she has been the greatest, most brilliant, kindest, sweetest angel that any of us worked with each other. So, God bless Catherine.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes, we'll give you the world.
ClickUp just solved AI's biggest problem, and it's saving 4 million teams from productivity loss every day. Unlike ChatGPT and other AI tools, ClickUp converges all your work into one platform, so your AI super agents have full context to prioritize tasks, execute workflows, and draft documents instantly. Teams using ClickUp finish work 30% faster and cut meetings in half. Try ClickUp for free today and get 15% off AI upgrades at clickup.com/podcast. That's CLICKUP.com/podcast.
Youth mental health is a complex challenge that requires comprehensive solutions. We must strengthen after-school programs. We must make digital literacy tools available in our schools. We must work with mental health professionals to support children. And we must empower mentors, educators, and parents to keep kids happy. Learn more about our commitment to finding lasting solutions at empowerourfuturecoalition.com/solutions. Paid for by the Coalition to Empower Our Future.